Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Simple Man's Brand. I am the Simple Man, whether you hear me in the AM or the PM, and welcome to this new endeavor I am doing. This is called the Simple Session. It is a conversation that is free form for about 30 to 45 minutes, maybe to an hour if we go into that deep of a discussion with me and some of my closest friends in what people call the wrestling community. I simply call it that because at the end of the day, it's a fabricated identity that some people take the wrong way, but I don't. With me on the initial episode, he is one of my fellow horseman predictions. He is the leader right now of the No Q Galaxy Predictions League, longtime friend, truly all elite, leads all the teams, always bring a discussion. It's great to have here one-on-one with me for the inaugural episode, Mark Griffith. Mark, it is wonderful to have you on this new endeavor I am going on. Of course, we've been predicting, engaging in wrestling for better part of the last probably 6 or 7 years. So how are you doing? And overall, how have you been lately in and out of wrestling?
I'm doing good, man. I'm happy to be doing this with you. I think this is going to be awesome. Honestly, I don't know how often we're going to do it or how much or how long, but either way, I'm looking forward to it. Anytime you can sit down and talk wrestling with a friend, I mean, and it doesn't have to be planned out. We can go from one topic to one company to the next. I mean, it's awesome. And if you're a fan of pro wrestling, I mean, I think this would be beneficial for everybody.
Well, I appreciate that. And I figured this would be a fun hobby because you could really make a conversation out of anything. But when it comes to the heart and soul of me, my simple introverted self, I am a lifelong fan of professional wrestling. Damn it. And I don't really take favorites or look at only one company. I look at the outlook of the entire business. Now, truth be told, I'm heavily more founded in the New Japan, the strong style things and ways. Of course, we are in the summer of Japanese tournaments, including but not limited to my favorite tournament of the year, the G1 Climax. But yeah, there truly is an infinite plethora when it comes to the outlook of professional wrestling, whether it's casual, hardcore, domestically, internationally, etc. So yeah, I just figure we see what happens with this. So first off, Mark, Summerslam. We just had it this past weekend. It was the first ever two-night event. What did you think of it overall from a quantity and quality standpoint, and your biggest takeaway from the weekend?
Oh man, I was excited for the two nights, and I like the two-night format. And I know a lot of my opinions are not going to be shared. I get it. And a lot of people didn't really they thought that we could what they did in two nights they could really consolidate it and make it into one night. But I enjoyed it, and I like big production. I like big moments, and I like the big. Well, they call it the big five. Big. I think it's the big four. I don't consider Money in the Bank one of the big ones, but they do. But I don't know about doing Money in the Bank being two nights, but eventually, I guess the plan would be the Survivor Series, Royal Rumble, and so on and so forth. And I enjoyed it. And as far as SummerSlam specifically, I did like night two more than night one. I know a lot of people didn't like night two because it seemed like extreme rules more than anything. I think the only regular match we got was AJ Styles and Dominic Mysterio. Outside of that, everything had a bunch of furniture in it. People really didn't care for the Hell in a Steel cage match, and but I did. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a mark. Maybe I just literally a mark. I just I like everything, and sometimes I like the entrances. I like the in ring. I like the storylines. I like a little bit of everything. So one thing doesn't get to me. One thing doesn't push me away from it, and I don't know. And you know just as well as I do, and I don't want to keep babbling on here, but I'm not just a WWE fan. I
No.
mean, I enjoy AEW, MLW, New Japan, TNA, NXT. I can go on. It's just GCW. I watch it all. Also a big sports fan, so I do balance both. But for the most part, I watch as much more wrestling than I do anything else, and I believe you know that as well. But overall, long story short, I thought SummerSlam was good. I would give it probably a 7.5 out of 10. Night one was good as well. We had two awesome moments to close out the show. Some people would probably disagree with the awesome part on night two. Some people don't like Brock, but that's another story for another time. But overall, 7 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I look at anything in life, in context. You got to look at quantity and quality. It's like the customer service status quo or customer satisfaction service that even we are scrutinized by at our jobs and by our bosses. But overall, at the end of the day, everybody on the card that weekend got a paycheck, so it had to be good for him in a way. For us as fans, it may have been a bit more time consuming. Figuring about some of this context, maybe it could have been on a Raw or a specialized SmackDown, like some companies do that, once in a while. And maybe night two did feel a bit more to the extreme, but based on the circumstances, it was justified. One was a TLC match, for Pete's sake. The other one was no DQ, and you can't be soft in a steel cage. But maybe they could have balanced out how many extreme circumstances were on that night versus night one, where that was more grudge focused tag standing than anything with guerrilla warfare. So I can understand where people are coming from. But again, maybe they wanted to give one the theme of everything has to go to the extreme. The other one's about subtle grudges being settled over professional wrestling. But I enjoyed SummerSlam for what it was worth. And definitely for me, I thought Gunther and CM Punk was one of the better WWE main event championship matches I have seen all year. It was very taxing and testing. It told a real story of how much CM Punk had to fight from underneath against the final boss of WWE, in my opinion. I think General Gunther, because there's not a pure, more dominant athlete in the WWE landscape than him. Again, 80% championship run. So I really thought that was a justified main event for night one. That was an incredibly well thought out match and well choreographed. And I liked the moment where Gunther saw his blood. Everything kind of fell apart. It was almost like a desperate means to try and get to the finish, but he couldn't bounce back. And CM Punk, like a predator in the water, saw blood and he preyed upon it and was successful. So he got his moment. Keyword moment. Of course, following that, though, everyone got the wool put over their eyes, quote unquote, if you did, if you're not. It is what it is now, where people might question, is the wrestler legitimately injured? That's what Seth freaking Rollins did. And it's interesting thinking about the outlook of injury on this business, where an athlete, both male and female, want to push themselves so hard to clamor for the fans' respect, to try and define that internet capitalizing moment. It's almost like a risk of their own self, mental, and physical well-being. And it's kind of been like the top that bleep type mentality started by the likes of Cody Rhodes and Kenny Omega. I've been seeing more and more people go to that extreme to risk life and limb, to be the one that you talk about the most. So maybe they feel like their spot is safe for the future, but that's just something else I thought about too, considering all the extreme spots during the TLC match, particularly on night two. But again, it's a different conversation on outlook of injuries in wrestling. How far does a wrestler need to injure themselves to stay forward in the business? That's a whole different conversation. But yeah, I enjoyed SummerSlam for what it was worth. But as far as it being two nights, is it justified for SummerSlam to be two nights like WrestleMania, where WrestleMania is the biggest thing of them all every year? The jury is out, but it was the first one. But now we know, at least to your point, going forward, it sounds like at least definitely SummerSlam and WrestleMania will stay the two-night format. Now, whether or not Survivor Series Royal Rumble join that fray as early as next year, keep in mind Royal Rumble falls in Saudi Arabia, remains to be seen until it's Adam Pearce's word, quote-unquote, official. But I enjoyed SummerSlam for what it was worth, and I think at the end of the day, the main events ended with the right people to lead the stories forward on both the red and blue brand. Now, whether or not you agree with the cause and effect that led to both of those moments, it is what it is. It's now happened. You can't change the past.
Right, exactly. Out of 10, what would you give it? I gave it a 7.5 overall. What would you say?
Well, it's interesting whenever I'm asked this question, because I don't grade, I don't believe in rankings, and I damn sure don't believe in star ratings. But overall, if I'm going to be put in that type of spot, I would say you're pretty much on point there. But I think I probably would, if nothing else, figured about the TLC milestone, figured about both main events, and of course the talking points led to afterwards. At the end of the day, the show was memorable, so you got to give a little bit of credit due for that. I would give it a solid 8 out of 10, honestly. I think it was a B-level show. Again, I do think they could have rearranged some of the night two into night one, split off some of the tag grudges into night two as buffers, slowdowns, and I do think a couple of matches could literally been on a Raw or SmackDown. Honestly, this could have been a 10-match weekend at the 2.5-hour soft point mark, and I would have been okay with that because it was two nights. But at the end of the day, when I look at my favorite matches, this could have been a one-night SummerSlam, and I would have been fine. I'm sure the 60,000 people each night from MetLife Stadium would have been fine, too, when it came to traveling home from that crazy place. Hopefully, it didn't take them as long like it did WrestleMania 35. Just saying. You were there at 35, weren't you?
No, I wasn't.
Oh, okay. I thought for some reason you were.
No,
Yeah, I know you.
I've always wanted to go to a WrestleMania. I've never got to one. When they did the WrestleMania in Philly, I had planned on doing. Things came up, I couldn't do it anymore, and I thought hopefully I didn't miss my boat because we don't get too many WrestleManias on the East Coast. Now I know they just had one recently, but eventually I would love for them to come. To maybe DC or Philly again, but we'll see.
Yeah, I have yet to do a WrestleMania as well. As I live by, priorities over passions, my friend. It's one of my simple mantras that I live by. Priorities over passions, protect your mentality, just do it live and enjoy wrestling, respect one another, support each other. Simple morals that have been encompassed into my mindset and my overall just behavior in life. Encouraged by, of course, my parents. God rest my father's soul. But yeah, as far as WrestleMania, I honestly don't know anymore because I don't know about you, but is it me or is WWE more expensive than ever, even to go just to a
Oh,
TV show, it seems? What the hell?
absolutely. The prices have gotten insane. I watched a Maven did a blog and he actually went to SummerSlam and he was talking to fans in the parking lot and he asked one of the fans, how much did you pay for your seats? And he said $500. And that's probably at the low end. I've looked into prices. They get into the thousands of dollars. Like it depends on how bad you want to be there, how close you want to sit. And when you pay a respectable price, you're pretty high, to be honest, with even at a respectable price. And then you feel like I could be on my couch at home with a 70-inch in front of me. Like there's no reason for me. But some people love the experience. Some people like to feel the rush and the fans and the entrance music and the glitz and everything. And just to be able to say, hey, you know what? I was here when this happened. Like some people love that, and I love it too. But it's just the prices are insane, and you can add that to TKO and I know they had a lot to do with it. Now, so I don't know if this could segue with anything else, but I think that it could actually even get higher. I mean, they have a partnership now with ESPN that broke this week, and I wouldn't be surprised if the prices would actually even increase from the increase they've already had.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, with the economy in the way it is, and tariffs also increasing the price of goods, everything from the grocery store to what you have made in China for your local electronic, it's a very scary market where people of the higher ups believe that people will be willing to spend anything or have anything to get to anything. But I'm not going to dissatisfy what WWE tries to bring the fans live because you're right. Again, it's the experience, that noise, that moment, that atmosphere, the electricity in the air. I went to SummerSlam last year. So again, when Roman Reigns came, that arena felt like it was shaking. And my seat was literally staring right down the ring, seeing Jero perform live, one of my mom's favorite artists, by the way, Justified Christian, God bless him. And shout out to Jero, by the way, because not every celebrity, very few celebrities can say, I took a WWE match at a freaking WWE PLE and I did my best, damn it. And apparently it was respected. And I respect Jelly Roll there. But yeah, it's insane to figure out. Last year for SummerSlam, the ticket alone, and again, this also might be Ticketmaster involved as well, since there's no competition to Ticketmaster. And that's why scalpers like SeatGeek and stuff like that buy tickets out from there and try to give them a cheaper price, although they also try and bulk price them at a higher price for more than one. So again, it's a wishy-washy system. I literally went to SummerSlam last year only because of my aunt, God bless her, helped me get a $250 ticket plus tax, and the tax was $30, not including ticket insurance. $280 overall just to get to SummerSlam. And I don't have a car, so I also had to literally spend the night in a Comfort Inn and take a Greyhound. And that wasn't even outside going to corner alley just to get something to eat and recreation. Overall, my SummerSlam experience was close to $550. But at the end of the day, I justify it by my family saying, if you don't do this, we're going to bop you, for one thing, because they know how much of a fan I am of this business and they want to do something nice for me. But I'm also one to not, you don't question kindness, but you also don't stop being humble when it's presented to you. And sometimes I don't think my family necessarily has to do those type of things for me when they do them. But again, I can't question kindness, otherwise they bot me. So it is what it is. God bless my aunt
Yeah,
Sandra. But
it's
yeah,
understandable though.
yeah, and you know, kindness is something more that needs to be spread around, not just in life, around you and your family members, but in this wrestling community as well. We don't have to be so self-absorbed, egotistic in our own minds and thinking everything we say is right because you freaking have an account that exists on the internet. The internet does not justify everything you say as accurate. The internet allows you to connect with others that share a similar mindset. No one's truly right or wrong, but everybody can be a fan and everyone should be able to respect each other's opinions and speak constructively, not sarcastically, or the word of the day, if Mark Briscoe hears me, tribalistically, if you will. And by the way, the greatest thing about SummerSlam last year was not even the show. It was me and my friend Cindy, who was there from California for the first time live. Shout out to
Cindy.
Chanel. Yep, Sienna Chanel. Go follow her photos on social media as she pursues a career in wrestling management. Already been involved in ring announcing, interviewing. So go follow her work at Sienna Chanel. Cheers, pal. But yeah, it's crazy to think what the economy is becoming and what the economy expects us to do that's best for their business, but probably worse for our own personal endeavors. It's insane. But to your point, you talk about Disney all in the world. Yeah, ESPN. So let me get this right. $30 a month for ESPN alone if you don't have a service that includes it bundle-wise. Hulu's going away. There's YouTube TV, I suppose. I don't know if Sling necessarily has that. And honestly, outside cable and satellite, which are dying as we speak, there aren't many other options besides literally getting that app itself. And we live in such a streaming-driven community. I don't know necessarily this is a good outlook for WWE and the trust of the support they have in their fan base. They already try and question our intelligence on a daily basis. John Cena turned heel. Didn't happen. Friday Night SmackDown. Hello. But I don't know if I could justify if the price meets the worth for me. If the price is right. Hello, Bob Barker. Rest in peace. Of being part of ESPN for WWE PLE events only. When, again, for you, it's just before you, ESPN gives you more sports content. So that might work for you, but I'm not a sports fan. I only watch professional wrestling, and the strongest form of wrestling competition is New Japan because they don't freaking let up there. People legit get jacked up. Gabe Kidd had to drop out of the G1 because Konosuke injured him. So, again, Mark, the ESPN aspect of WWE truly going to the sports network, do you think it's justified for their content, and are you going to follow along with the new ESPN subscription until 2026?
It all depends on what type of fan you are, and I'm glad that you brought this up because we are on opposite ends of the spectrum as far as the sports goes. And I'm not saying this. If you are a sports fan and if you were planning on getting the NFL Sunday ticket or whatever it is with the NFL Red Zone or whatever comes with the ESPN, and you were planning on spending that $30, I'm not saying all wrestling fans are football fans, but I would like to say a good chunk of them could be. So I just feel like if you're a football fan and you're a wrestling fan, instead of just I think Hulu was bought by Disney. I was just listening to it today. I'm not sure, but you could buy a package for $30 and you could get your football, you could get your wrestling, you get your Hulu, Disney, or whatever. You get this whole package for like $30 and bundle. And I don't think it's that bad, to be honest with you, just because I'm a sports fan. Now, if you're not a sports fan, you don't care about none of that stuff, and you just look at it like this. I was paying $10.99 for this stuff. Now I'm paying this much. It doesn't make sense to me. I'll cancel out my Peacock. I don't want nothing to do with it. I understand it. But I also see that if you're a sports fan and you're also a wrestling fan, where this could be like, killing two birds with one stone, and you also get, I believe, Hulu and Disney. Somebody in the comments or somebody could have to correct me if I'm wrong. I was just listening to JD earlier this morning. He did a 30-minute video on it, and he was talking about these bundles that came with the WWE subscription along with the ESPN app, and I thought it was great, to be honest with you, because I'm already buying it anyway. So if all I have to do is put my ESPN information in and I get the wrestling already, then great, to be honest with you, because I would have spent, it saves me whatever I would have spent on Peacock. But that's just me, though. As far as being on ESPN, I believe he also said that Nick Khan, his day one when he came to WWE, this is what he wanted. He wanted WWE to be a part of the ESPN program and to be looked at like these other companies, like the NBA, like the MLB, and be right on that same level. And apparently that they're also going to highlight like what happens on wrestling on ESPN. And I think they've already started to do that. Like I was getting notifications, and this is before the news broke. I was getting notifications throughout SummerSlam on my ESPN app when a certain wrestler would win, and they would kind of put a little footnote underneath of it. And I just thought it was cool because just being such a diehard sports fan and a diehard pro wrestling fan, seeing them kind of come together and seeing ESPN kind of give them the respect that I feel like the people that are in this business deserve was cool for me. You know what I mean? I enjoy being, not saying taken seriously. I'm saying that they look at them different now than they did before. As far as pro wrestling, WWE, and I just think that ESPN highlights that, and I think it could be a good thing for everybody.
Yeah, I remember at one point Jonathan Coachman, I think, led just a segment on ESPN regarding WWE, and even interviewed WWE superstars. Whether or not Coachman will be involved as like the spotlight guy for ESPN WWE highlights remains to be seen. But I can understand what you mean there, and it does feel like now that they are trying to truly encompass WWE as not only the king of sports entertainment, but maybe they're trying to encompass as a leader in sports environment. So again, with seeing more people in the sports world, whether it's football, whether it's basketball. I mean, again, they highlight that Indiana Pacers guy multiple times during SummerSlam. We've seen the San Francisco 49ers linebacker support Bailey at multiple times at WrestleMania. Heck, we just had mainstream entertainment star Jelly Roll compete at SummerSlam against former boxer Logan Paul, who is a full-on signed WWE superstar. It almost makes you wonder if this is going to lead to more professional athlete crossovers on the WPLE, even more as a spotlight, but even more maybe as a competing on-screen individual for a special highlight. I mean, I know people were all up in the air when it came to Pat McAfee and his cronies, for example, being part of the W2K25 video game. I think Pat McAfee has also been very outspoken about this as well. We know how much of a WWE fan he is, but whether or not he's favoring this idea of the ESPN taking in WWE content for their own monetary gain versus the fans' benefit, maybe that's the outlook he's looking at, because we all know how much of a huge fan Pat McAfee is when it comes to WWE, and we could all tell how much Michael Cole misses working with him on Monday Night Raw now that he's back with Corey Graves. He doesn't have that same full-on energy, but I think Corey Graves being on Raw, though, is just for how well of a color analyst he is. Play-by-play, different conversation. But yeah, as far as me, I look at it like this. TNA, top 4 pay-per-views. They're $50 to $40 a year. You're spending $160 to $200, and they truly are a big four. Bound for Glory, Slammiversary, Rebellion, and what's the other one I'm missing?
Hard to Kill.
Thank you, Hard to Kill, or Genesis. I forgot. They always juggled the two. You know, it's always something in January, but you get what I mean. And as far as WWE, I do agree, justifiably. It's only Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, Survivor Series. Personally, Money in the Bank, I think, for me, should go back to being the spotlight match at WrestleMania. I still go back and watch WrestleMania 23, Money in the Bank. That's one of my all-time favorites. Just saying. And then AEW started with the Big Four, and then they jumped up to 8, and now they're 9. But the nice thing is, again, it's once a month. And now being on Amazon, they give you a $10 credit on Amazon Prime, which I've been using towards the next show. So it's like $40. So it really comes down to how much bang you want to get out of your buck. And for me, I'm going to buy the AEW pay-per-views. I am going to watch TNA, even though, again, I'm going to have to buy the pay-per-views separately because I don't have the annual subscription to TNA Plus. And as far as WWE stuff goes, because you got to consider that only does that WPLE, that's NXT as well, because NXT is also a WWE brand. They just kind of don't say NXT anymore. They just say WWE Battleground, for example, WWE Heatwave, presented by NXT. It's almost like NXT is blind now when it comes to the logo. It's just WWE. I don't know necessarily what that means for NXT in the long run, but a whole different conversation where it feels like WWE is trying to assimilate everything into one ecosystem, into one landscape, even though they got USA, CW, and to your point, Peacock, who just raised their prices by $3. Already pissed my mom off, and she's a Peacock person. Just saying. We're also a Max household, and we have the premium for $23. So again, it's like, okay, Max, $7 difference. Peacock, okay, you're now half the price. Netflix, you were never supposed to raise your price. You're $20. So is $30 that big of a deal a month to keep up with one, if not two, WWE products if you're not a sports fan? For that audience, maybe. If you are a sports fan, you still got all that extra context as well. So at the end of the day, you're just getting a little bit more. And if you're not a full-on WWE fan, who knows? You might watch it casually. So I think you got to look at it from the aspect of what sort of fan are you when it comes to when you hear WWE, how much are you willing to watch it when it's not Raw or SmackDown? And for those of CW, not me, NXT weekly. I know I'm going to talk more about this during the shenanigans tonight. Stay tuned for more on that, folks. I'll be hosting that, of course, the weekly Roundhouse conversation of wrestling madness. Hey, JJ, I love you, brother, but dude, that's your gig. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how much 2026 shapes people's economic outlook towards how much they put into their love and joy and support of the wrestling business as fans. Because you might as well be spending more on watching content than you are spending on merchandise.
True, very true. What do you say to the people that say, you know what, I'm done? I mean, this is too much. I'm sailing. I'm moving. I'm not watching WWE. I'm canceling and everything. This is BS. If I gotta watch AEW, I'll watch AEW. If I gotta cut it all out, I'll cut it all out. I'm not paying more than I was before. What do you say to that person that says, you know what, I'll stop watching WWE because of this?
I think those people have an abrupt reaction to the news and are not thinking constructively about what can I do around this. And if there's no way around this, what can I do to still get my joy out of the wrestling business? Like I told you, more often than not, I love AEW. I enjoy WWE. I am TNA faithful for life. Shout out to Attila. And New Japan Pro Wrestling is my outside country wrestling escape. It's one of those things where, again, you love this so much, but how much does it love you back? I literally heard that from like Sky Blue, for example, in a great interview she had with Denise Salcedo. Go check her out. Great wrestling personality. Great interview too. Love Sky Blue. It's one of those things where I think people act impulsively without thinking. And I would just tell them to breathe and take a moment to think about what can you do? Is there a workaround? Are you willing to work around it before you just say, screw all of this? And don't say because I'm not watching WWE, now I'm going to watch AEW. You almost made that sound like, okay, that's announced. Now I'm just going to deal with this. Are you a fan of it or not? How much of a fan are you of what you enjoy versus what you're willing to be a fan of out of circumstance? I think it's the outlook everyone needs to figure out when it comes to this wrestling business. I literally only watch wrestling on a weekly basis outside YouTube when it comes to Evan and Caitlin, Mythbusters, and Gav Smulders and Stumped. That's literally my entertainment content weekly outside sleeping. But it's one of those things where I want those people to really figure out, do you really enjoy this? Or was it more of a contentment? If you were just content, but now you feel that the content is not worth the cost, then okay, take it easy. Because if you've really been following this long, why would you get rid of something you truly love just because it's outside your price margin? There are other means. As much as I hate to try and suggest this, the internet exists for a reason when it comes to watching wrestling online, but play it smart when it comes to those links, people. And even then, people have alternative methods. VPN. How do you think I talk to you about British game shows? I watch Pointless, The Chase, Beat the Chasers. I watch freaking, what's that one show from a while back? Wipeout. The only reason I'm able to do that is with Surfshark. I watch VPN because I look at other servers for wrestling content like RipPro, like Progress, like WXW, like ICW. There are other ways that are cheaper to try and manipulate the system. It's called a hustle. I was raised partly in the ghetto, so I kind of know how to hustle. I'm just saying. I know how to make a dollar go further, and I know how to make a dollar when I need to. I also know what to sell when I need to. I once sold both my game consoles to save my family from eviction. Long story short, you got to be able to go the extra mile whenever it comes to your back up against the wall. But literally, there's other means. VPN also exists for a reason. Watch Netflix internationally. Canada, eh? Shout out to my friends in Canada, Josh and Draco. Just think before you act. And that's one of the things that society lacks. Think before you act. When you act on sheer assumption, sheer emotion, you're going to falter or fail. When you think before you act, you plan, you look, you compare, you organize, you prioritize. Then you'll feel better about your decisions versus living with self-content or regret. So bottom line, just think before you act and look at alternative aspects to keep up with what you love in and out of the wrestling business. That's all I got to say about that.
I agree with you. Absolutely.
Well, that being said, thinking about wrestlers, I mean, I mentioned Sky Blue, for example. Of course, we love wrestling because we look at the personality, the presentation, the pomp, the circumstance, the aura, etc. Mark, you've been watching wrestling pretty much as long as I have that I could think of. Who's somebody that's been catching your eye lately in the wrestling business that you really come to follow on their growth, their journey, and maybe you want to see them become like a world champion one day, male or female, from any sort of company. Who's been kind of like piquing your interest lately? Whose story have you been kind of invested in?
Good Lord, that is a question that should come a lot easier. Uh, I like Sol Ruka, to be honest with you, and I've been following her since she's been in NXT, and but she's kind of just getting started. But she, she has done some stuff with her time in NXT, but I just feel like she's main roster ready. What's another one? I like Stacks down there. He's a real good. I mean, I do like what's his name? I can't think of his name right. Um, what's I'm thinking New Japan. The shooter. God, I can't think of his name.
Shota Umino.
Yes, yes. He's another one that I was watching for a long time from a young lion and working his way up to seeing him in a top position now. Is good. There's a lot of young talent out there. And speaking of New Japan, and I'm not getting off subject too much, but this being Hiroshi Tanahashi's last year, I guess his last match coming up will be at Wrestle Kingdom 20 on January 4th. That's it's kind of parallel to what John Cena's doing, to be honest with you. That was one of the questions I had for later. I mean, I could get to it now because I'm actually kind of went into it. But as far as I'll save that. But for me, like I said, Sol Ruka, Uma, I can't even say his name. Say it for me.
Shota Umino.
Shota Umino, and who was the other one I said? Stacks. Those are the three that as far as I liked where they were, and I kind of watched them since they've been built up. I still think Sol Ruka's got a lot to do, obviously, but yeah, that's what I'd say.
Yeah. Well, like I said, Sky Blue is also one I've been following for a long time, since AAW. I also say, Stacks, where it's at. Damn it. Why is she not the damn AEW Women's Champion? Why is she not going after Toy Storm? Though she seems to be losing her marbles. I'm just going to put that out there. I love Chris Statlander's growth, her professional return, of course, since injury, this newfound attitude, but still trying to figure herself out. And Jon Moxley even suddenly endorsing her, giving her an idea of, don't ever let anyone tell you who you are or what you're worth. I think Statlander now is really trying to take that in a contest and what she's trying to do next. So Statlander and Sky Blue. So Ruka is definitely one from NXT. I definitely agree with you. I think she has huge potential. She's definitely a favorite down there. Again, still NXT Women's North American Champion to be in 10 packs. At least spoiler alert, folks, for those that didn't watch NXT game match. And I do think she could possibly challenge down the line for the NXT Women's Championship. Maybe she can be one of the candidates we figure about the most at deadline. As far as Japan goes, I mean, again, this G1's been defined by the new generation. Uyamera, Rihei Oiwa, Ren Narita, for what it's worth, despite House of Torture nonsense. I got to give credit to when it comes to the original son of Strong Style. And, of course, Kosei Fujo, who won the best of Super Juniors. But, yeah, Shota Umino on this new second chapter in being humble in victory versus assuming I will be the next ace. It's definitely gone along. Yeah,
exactly. Good.
It's definitely gone a long way for him. And, of course, right now, he very much has a big chance to get in the playoffs. To your point, G1 Climax, we have 1 day left of block action for each block. And it's do or die for several people. And also there are others that can play spoilers. I look at the A block and I think right now, Konosuke, can he actually make it in? Zack Jr., a hell of a mounting comeback. Again, defending G1 champion, WGP champion. Shota Umino still very much alive. It's beating Konosuke to cash. That's going to be a critical tiebreaker. Shirakagi needs a lot of help. But it's good to know that he's not eliminated, because I was a little bit hurt by that when Chris Charlton said that. But it sounds like thanks to his last victory against him in Narita, there's still a chance that the Dragon could rage into the playoffs. A chance, minimal, but still a chance. But yeah, as far as wrestling outlook, I mean, so many incredible young men and women that truly show the wrestling business will never die. It will just keep thriving. And the problem with the business right now, there is so much untapped quality that just doesn't have enough bookings, it seems, or it just isn't realized enough to the fullest potential. So that's just a few names on my mind. But I do like the fact you did bring up Hiroshi Tanahashi and John Cena, leaders of different generations of this wrestling business. John Cena, the face of WWE for the last 23 years. Hiroshi Tanahashi, he's been the ace of New Japan Pro Wrestling for the better part of, I think, over 25 years, if that. So looking at both men's careers, forget about how both men's career timelines are reaching a deadline. It does make you wonder when you look at both men and what they did for their respective companies. Is there anybody in either company that could justify being the next Ace or the next Cena for the next generation to come? So, Mark, looking at John Cena, who carries that parallel of work ethic, determination, character development, the first name I think of course, is Cody Rhodes. But he's also very much towards, I think, the talent of his career as well. I think he said he wanted to stop before he was 50. As far as New Japan Pro Wrestling with the new generation just coming into blooming, it's the who's who right now where you really think about it. Gabe Kidd, Yoda Tsuji, freaking Shota Umino. I mean, it's really not pinpoint down in New Japan. And I think WWE doesn't truly know who that next guy is going to be yet. But what do you think looking at both these men's careers coming to an end? Who could be the next quarterback, George Barris? Could Cody be in the long haul, or is he just transitional? And do you have a name out there, Shota Umino, that could take Tanahashi's role?
I was going to say Cody, but and I still could. I could definitely build a case for it. But then I also would like to say somebody like a Seth Rollins. But is he at this point, like, I don't think he could be healthy enough. I don't know. He just can't stay. I don't know. I want to say Seth and I want to say Cody, but Seth's health worries me more than I think Cody has. The first time he got hurt was, I think, the pectoral muscle. Isn't that correct? Then when that's his first injury, really?
Yeah, and he still finds that Hell in the Cell, and that goes back to our talk about injury mentality. Yeesh. Continue.
Between Tanahashi and Cena, though, I was trying. One of my questions was going to be to you is, who do you think did more for their generation and their particular company? Would it be a John Cena or would it be a Tanahashi? When they're both done at the end of the year, basically, who do you think would rank higher on your personal list as far as top 10, what they've done for pro wrestling as a whole, not their specific companies? Would it be Tanahashi or would it be John Cena?
Oh, that is a big outlook to think about, because when I think about Tanahashi, he straight up is, always will be just New Japan Pro Wrestling. Why John Cena went from Word Live, Thuganomics, Hustler Dispatch, never gave up, the face of WWE, expanding that company's outlook globally. I can't go against John Cena's impact on the business from a global standpoint. Hell, when's the primary of John Cena and Rich Tanahashi once met each other in a cafe and we never knew about it? But Tanahashi's always been deadlocked, determined, focused, and dedicated on one thing: New Japan Pro Wrestling. He never really shared, for example, in Kenny Omega's outlook of changing the world, changing the dynamic of wrestling to involve tables and go to the extreme. Always was stuck in his own Tanahashi philosophy. With John Cena, the proverbial thing about him is apparently he was the guy with the golden shovel, but that was not him. That was booking by Vince McMahon. So I would have to say, simply put, I give it to John Cena with how much the WWE brand expanded with him at the forefront. Whether you were at a house show, whether you heard it in a different language, whether you heard it for the first time on a different network, whether you were there for the WWE Network countdown, the first thing, name, or face you thought of was John Cena. I got to give it to Cena in that matter. But Tanahashi, again, he brought New Japan out of the dark ages when that company was on the verge of going out of business. And while I don't think WWE was ever on the verge of going out of, I don't think WWE was ever on the verge of going out of business, there was a huge fallout with the fan base, clearly, in the 2000s, and especially during the reality era in the 2010s for the 2020s, when they really didn't know what they were doing. That whole brand split thing in 2016 was still debatable, but it did try to breathe new life and a new identity in both Raw and SmackDown. But yeah, I gotta give it from a global impact industry standpoint to John Cena. But Tanahashi, I think, still at the end of the day, he's saved and he will always be in New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Absolutely. Do you think we'll see Tanahashi and Okada one more time before Tanahashi is done, maybe at Forbidden Door? Because that was another thing I wanted to talk about real quick. Is Forbidden Door, is it just going to be AEW this year? It couldn't be Forbidden Door without having, more companies involved. Wouldn't you say? Like,
I think Forbidden Door expanded a little bit when you think about the Fatal 4-Way for the TBS Championship. It's going to be represented from CMLL, Stardom, AEW, and what's the other one? Ring of Honor, I think. There's like three different. Oh no, that's right. There's three different people. Monet versus representative AEW versus representative CMLL versus representative Stardom. I think Forbidden Door is going to have subtle touches of Stardom, New Japan, and CMLL, and of course Ring of Honor at the forefront. But you also got to consider we are in the summer of tournaments. Most of the New Japan and the Stardom roster are preoccupied right now in the G1 Climax and the 5-Star Grand Prix. Now, truth be told, Forbidden Door is after both those tournaments conclude, but we have no idea what the outlet's going to be on the other side based on whoever wins each of those tournaments respectively. So, no, I do think Forbidden Door is going to span. You think about the first Forbidden Door, it was just New Japan. You figure out the next Forbidden Door, it involved a little bit of CMLL. Here we are at this Forbidden Door. Now we got Stardom, CMLL, and New Japan with AEW. Because when you look at the company's outlooks, AEW's kind of got like 5 partners at their forefront. Ring of Honor, CMLL, Stardom, and New Japan. So I definitely see all those companies being involved. It's just a matter of how they are involved in the card outside the CMLL and Stardom representative that's going to go after Mercedes Moné's TBS championship. And as far as Tanahashi versus Okada, before Okada, it was Keiji Muto. Before that, it was the likes of Satoshi Kojima. We've seen the man compete on the Tokyo Dome against the likes of Tetsuya Naito, Shinsuke Nakamura. Of course, he and Tanahashi were one of the 3 musketeers of that era for New Japan Pro Wrestling. But I do think Okada was probably the one that defined Tanahashi the most. And looking at last year's Forbidden Door, to your point, where Okada got the better of the Ace with a low blow in multi-person action, I don't think it happens at Forbidden Door because we know Tanahashi is going to have a match in the UK. In fact, Forbidden Door, I think, is going to be his last match in the UK. But Okada is taking on Swerve Strickland to defend the AEW Unified Championship. And stay tuned, folks. More on that, of course, on Cinema Dame Forbidden Door. And stay tuned for the format always. But as far as Okada and Tanahashi one more time, I would love to see that. Thinking about their trilogy across Wrestle Kingdom 7, Wrestle Kingdom 9, Wrestle Kingdom 10. And honestly, they did that one last match during Okada's farewell run. In fact, I think it was Okada's last singles match before he went off in Chaos Team Action, much to Yoshi's discredit. But I do think the Ace and the Rainmaker can go one more time with this new aggressive Rainmaker dynamic. If they book somehow Okada and Tanahashi in the Tokyo Dome with Okada, this newfound heel attitude coming out to that theme versus Rainmaker, that'll be a shock to everybody in the Tokyo Dome and New Japan Pro Wrestling. And honestly, I would love to see that. I would love to see Okada be the last match for Tanahashi on the Ace's grand stage that he still holds, at least for my opinion. Wrestle Kingdom. So I think it happens one more time, but definitely not Forbidden Door. But I do think you're going to see all 5 companies at Forbidden Door. What's your outlook?
Absolutely, and if and I almost want to say if and when, to be honestly, when it does happen, I know it's not going to be as good as their previous encounters. I get it. I mean, my expectations aren't going to be through the roof, but it's about more than that. It's about who is in this ring right now, and we are going to see it again, and that's what I care about most. I mean, they don't have to go and nail absolutely everything. They don't have to go 55 minutes. I mean, we just seen Omega and Okada, and it wasn't the best one that between them two, but it was good, and I appreciate it because I knew what came with that story. I knew what they've done in the past, and everything just rolled right. It was great. I thought it was great, and I know a lot of people didn't really care for it as much as the other ones, but it was the moment that counts. So.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, wrestling more than ever is about the moment you leave versus the matches you have versus the matches you create, because the matches help define those moments, but it's the moments that let you live on forever. To your point, that was Okada and Omega 5, and at the end of the day, I think it really closed the loop on that rivalry once and for all because Okada finally beat Kenny Omega, proved he was better, and he went full on heel to do it. So I don't think you need Okada and Omega again. Now, whether or not we need Okada and Ibushi again, I mean, I wouldn't mind that because we know Ibushi can still kind of go too, but of course, it's Omega's golden lover. It's one of those things where I don't need to see the same match that I already saw, but seeing the same 2 from that match, delivering that moment again a different way, that's what makes a rematch worthwhile under the right stage and circumstances. It's all a matter of booking, planning, and in my friend JJ's words, long-term storytelling. And that's what feeds the business still to this day and will now and forever.
Absolutely.
Well, Mark, I think that being said, this has been a wonderful conversation for our first ever simple session. I'm sure it won't be our last. I don't know what will become of this. I don't know what others might think about this, but truly, this is a hobby that I wanted to try. And I think I'm truly going to love this. So I definitely hope to have you again for this one-on-one conversation. And I look forward to the next time we chat, engage, inquire, and simply react to all things wrestling and a subtle outlook in life. So with that being said, closing remarks, details, anywhere that people can find you, and what you want to take away from this simple session.
Yeah, this is fun. I appreciate you and whoever watches this letting me run my mouth and babble for 45 minutes. I appreciate it. I know sometimes I can go off in left field sometimes, but this stuff excites me, man. You know that. Like sometimes I just get talking and I'm thinking about saying this and then it just goes into another but I mean that's why I love it. To be honest with you, I get excited and sometimes I'm doing it now. I'm doing it now. But you can always find me on Team Pro Wrestling or any of the Team All Elite channel or the pages. And yeah, I still have so much that we could probably talk about. So this is definitely not going to be the last time. I really enjoyed this, knowing I don't think I'm the only one that's going to enjoy it. I think we had good conversation tonight, good topics, and I think there's still plenty more where that came from.
Yeah, at the end of the day, as long as wrestling's going, the conversation will keep flowing. So I definitely look forward to it. Again, folks, if you want to have a simple session with me, find me on YouTube or on X and at Fox Night Scene for all things wrestling. We'd love to engage you in a positive manner to get your outlook on life and the wrestling business primarily. Because at the end of the day, I believe there truly are no winners, no losers, no betters, just fans of opinions with this passion we all share. At the end of the day, folks, support one another, respect each other, protect your mentality too, treasure your families, and truly just enjoy life and enjoy professional wrestling. It's truly as simple as that. But with that being said, thank you so much for checking out the pilot of what I'm going to call a simple session. Thank you again. Please subscribe, comment, tell a friend, hit the bell as video goes live on demand on this channel. And if you haven't already, support all my friends in the Super Reliable Studios, especially our Canadian friend Ash, who's just starting. Don't be a dickhead. She's a lifelong fan of New Japan Pro Wrestling, Satsuma Jr., and AEW. And of course, subscribe to the Rage of Wrestling Walter Cruz, because apparently if he gets 200 subscribers, he's on his way to WrestleMania next year. So let's help my buddy Walter Cruz out. But that being said, I think I'll leave you now, as always, with this. This has been a simple session. And Mark, it's been an absolute pleasure of a conversation. Until the next time, folks, I'm the Cement Noah Foster. Make a positive impact in life and have a good night. And thank you for tuning in to the first ever simple session. Have a good night, folks.
Thanks, guys.